FOMO.
The reality is there's a customer out there, a conscientious customer trying to make the right decision for their family and for the planet. And we've talked a lot about carbon, but increasingly there are more customers who care about plastic. And so the problem that we're solving is to serve that customer and give them a curated set of products that are trying to do the right thing.
I'm Patrick J. McGinnis, and I coined the term FOMO. That's short for fear of missing out, and it's why some people end up following the crowd when they should be blazing a trail of their own. But if you want to achieve greatness in business and life, you've got to break free. Come on, I'll show you how. This is FOMO Sapiens, where we explore how entrepreneurial thinkers find the inspiration and the courage to build exceptional lives. Welcome back to FOMO Sapiens, the show for entrepreneurial thinkers. I'm your host, Patrick J. McGinnis, and today we're going to be talking to Jeff Yurcisin, the CEO of Grove. Now, if you haven't heard of Grove, let me tell you a little bit about it. It was launched in 2016 as a certified B Corp. It is listed on the New York Stock Exchange. You can find them with GROV as the ticker. And this company curates and creates more than 200 high-performing, eco-friendly brands of household cleaning, personal care, health and wellness, laundry, clean beauty, baby, and pet care products serving millions of households across the United States every year. That was a mouthful. Before Grove, Jeff was CEO, I love Jeff's laughing, at Shop Bop and Zulily, and served in multiple senior executive roles at Amazon, where he led Amazon's global efforts on private brands and apparel. And he earned his degrees from Princeton University and Harvard Business School. And by the way, before I even say, I have heard that at Amazon, people call Jeff the other Jeff.
This is not true.
Jeff Yurcisin. Now, why am I teasing Jeff right off the bat? Because we studied together in business school. He was in my same section, which meant I looked at him every day for a year. And therefore, I know that he is the other Jeff. Jeff, thanks for being here.
Oh, amazing to be here. Great seeing your face. Love any opportunity for us to connect. But I've also been a listener of this podcast now for years. Amazed at what you're doing and just an honor to be here.
I'm so excited to have you, and thank you so much. Jeff, we're going to start the show with the question I ask everybody. And even though I super like you, I won't let you off the hook. So the question is this. Tell me something unexpected you learned about yourself that changed everything.
I think I've got to go back to childhood. When I was 10, my father died. And there are two moments of this story. One is the actual death and losing your father and going through childhood as being felt like the one kid who didn't have a father. You realize life is not fair. And I kind of went through my teen years feeling that way. That life is not fair for anyone. Well, for me at that time, but I didn't realize later until a singular moment at a camp. When I was 15 years old, there was a bonfire. We were sitting around trying to be vulnerable to ourselves on the last night of this camp. And I share my story about having lost my dad. And if I go back into the psyche of my 15-year-old self, I think I wanted attention. I was like, woe is me, feel sorry, and then I listened. And around this bonfire, the stories are just make you cry. There was one kid, I don't remember the country he was from, but he was literally pushed off from a raft and never saw his birth parents again. Went and came to the United States, was adopted. There was someone else who talked about real horrible abuse within their family, sexual abuse. It was all just so heavy. And I remember just sitting around. So at first, when I was 10, I kind of realized life isn't fair. And then at 15, I was hit with the recognition of gratitude. And so the guy that you met in business school was probably most influenced by his mother. That's my mom is this super mom. And I may have lost my dad when I was 10. But God, I was given the best mom imaginable. She raised 3 boys on her own. We put ourselves through school, but she gave us was a role model for us on how to live. And secondly, our personality types, she became an executive coach late in life. And so we'd sit around in our 20s, or when I was in my 20s, around Thanksgiving dinner table, and we'd be talking like Myers-Briggs and Firo B and personality types because she had become this great executive coach. And so there was a little bit of a journey here, but from life is not fair to then recognizing the gratitude that should be in our lives. And then for me, that gratitude probably starts in terms of who I am with my mother.
And now you have a sense, everybody who's listening, a really good sense of who Jeff is, which is really important because you shared, I think, everything you just said just felt very you. And you can also see why he's such a powerful, inspirational leader. And what we're going to do today is talk about the company he's running now, Grove, which is a company I had heard about. And then I didn't realize it was you. So, obviously, I have to now, buy things. But it's not just because of you. It's because of the work that you're doing. But before we get into all of that, just give us the pitch. Like, what is the company? Why should people be excited about visiting your website?
I love it. First, you have to talk about plastic. The reality is there's a customer out there, a conscientious customer trying to make the right decision for their family and for the planet. And we've talked a lot about carbon, but increasingly there are more customers who care about plastic. And so the problem that we're solving is to serve that customer and give them a curated set of products that are trying to do the right thing. Lots of certified B corporations, brands that are trying to reduce or eliminate plastic, sustainable brands. And so what we offer is we are truly the first plastic neutral retailer in the world. Of course, we are also offsetting all of our carbon. We are truly the leader in sustainable home care. And now, in the last 8 months, I joined about 9 months ago, we've said, look, it's not just about home care. It's not just about cleaning. It's literally about serving this customer across all of her needs. And so the pitch is we are the trusted brand for a conscientious customer.
What does plastic neutral mean? It makes it sounds good, but I have no idea what it means.
It means truly plastic zero. We try to eliminate plastic in all of the products that we're selling, the packaging that we're selling. And then if we are forced to actually use plastic, we will pay to offset it in a way that we literally are cleaning bottles out of the water and ensuring that we truly are a plastic neutral company. And what's interesting, So what's interesting is, look, have you seen that PBS documentary called The Plastic Wars?
No, because I probably was afraid of getting depressed. So why don't you tell us what the heck? Because I can't handle this stuff. So go ahead and tell me.
All right. So whether it's the Plastic Wars or whether it's the Wall Street Journal kind of article or the New York Times, increasingly there's more and more data coming out there to consumers, teaching us what really happens when we put plastic into our blue bins. Like we have been persuaded for a generation that you put that in there and it gets recycled.
Yeah, like, it's like it's going to like confession at a Catholic church. You're like, I'm good now, right?
Yeah. And literally, if you go back and study, and the Plastic Wars does this, goes back to DuPont in the 1970s and the petrochemical and plastic industry and how it came about. It was trying to solve those little chasing arrows on recycling, trying to solve the conscience for an American consumer. But the reality is you put plastic into that bin, only 5% gets recycled. So where does the other 95% go? Well, for years, we used to be shipping it to China. Sometimes when it goes overseas, it literally gets incinerated, which is also obviously horrible. Sometimes that trash that you put over ends up in the sea. And like the best thing it could happen if it's not recycled is to end up in landfills. But the reality is most of it doesn't do that. And so what are we trying to do? We are trying to educate customers. We're trying to move beyond plastic. Yes, 5% of plastic is recyclable. But if you work backwards and say, well, about 90% of all ocean-bound plastic is single-use plastic, like used one time and then dumped. And then of that single-use plastic, 98% is from fossil fuels. And so you just step back. It's like, when was the last time you used styrofoam? You live in Manhattan. Like,
I don't think we're allowed to anymore, right? Didn't they
Right.
Yeah, I'm not missing it, by the way. I'm chill.
So, but think back to when we grew up in the 80s. Styrofoam was everywhere. Why? Yeah. Because it was this really great packaging material that was really cheap, really light, and solved a lot of problems. But the problem was it wasn't biodegradable, and it was really hard to be recycled. Guess what? Let's talk about plastic. It's not really biodegradable, and it's really hard to be recycled. But we have lived with a generation of believing that all of the things that we're putting into that blue bin actually get recycled. And so you fast forward as more and more of these articles and documents and research reports get out into the public, more and more customers are worrying about their plastic pollution. And so what we're trying to do, yes, we're trying to win. We're trying to build this great viable business that can return great returns for shareholders, but we're trying to do something bigger than that. We're also trying to truly transform the consumer products industry. So one thing I'm really proud of is this team, before I arrived, we literally measure the amount of plastic in every single product we sell. Every product we sell, we're measuring, and then we are reporting out, compared to every dollar of revenue, how many pounds or ounces of plastic are we actually selling. Wow. And, if you think about the transformation that we need in our society, we've got to take ownership of this pollution. And I think more and more customers are worried about it, and we could be their solution.
FOMO. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So I'll tell you how I think about it, and I'm curious. I want to hear your reaction, which is that, obviously I thought I was I do recycle, I have to, but I'm happy to do it. I put all this stuff, and now I'm feeling bummed about it because I know it's performative. I remember I used to just order a case of Poland Spring in my apartment every couple of weeks and drink that instead of tap water, which is, I don't even know why I did that, but that's because that was a thing people did. And then I had a friend who worked at Ceres, which is a water advocacy organization. And when I went to her house, she always gave a water bottle. And I would so I started doing that. And when you come to my house, I give you a water bottle. So that was the beginning of my journey as somebody who cared about these things. But then more over time, I started to read about plastic seeping into the things that we consume. I started reading about, I have a friend who's a doctor who was at my house and said, he saw I had a plastic spatula and he said, plastic plus heat equals bad. And I started to realize, which is by the way, now I have a wooden spatula, so hooray for me. But there are all these. And now I've gotten a little bit, to be honest, I'm a little when I get when I order in, they bring it in plastic, and I'm very nervous about I don't heat things in it, whatever. The point is that even though I don't have a deep, I haven't done deep research, it is kind of obvious that you don't want things seeping into your food and the things you consume and the things that all these other stuff and all the chemicals, and it's just bad. And you see this in the health outcomes. So I'm curious, yes, there is the consumer who, and it's probably a younger consumer than me, that is thinking about the earth and wants to do the right thing for the ecological reason. But I have to also think there's the consumer who just says I don't want to die of some crazy illness that I got because there was plastic in the stuff that I was consuming.
Do you want to join Grove? You just described our
yes,
two segments.
I'd like to be your boss, but otherwise I'll be the CFO, which stands for Chief FOMO Officer.
I love it. No, but what I mean, you just described our two customer segments instinctively, right? There's one that this eco warrior who's trying to make the right decision for the planet. And then there are others who are just amazed at the type of microplastics that exist. And again, all the research that's coming out. Cornell just produced a study earlier this year on nanoplastics, even more. We're talking about
I read it.
Thousands.
It's scary.
It is, and so we're trying to figure out how all of this is impacting our health. I'm involved with this great cancer center out here in Seattle called the Fred Hutch, and we keep learning more, and it's every year we're learning more about how these external elements are impacting our health and the type of impacts they can have. And so you step back and you say, what should we do? I know you travel the world.
There are rumors that I have, yes.
My mom's Mexican.
Yeah.
And so I go back to Mexico a lot. And one of my family members there is fighting this fight in Mexico. And I was like, only 5% is recycled. He looked at me and he just kind of laughed. He's like, in Mexico, we're less than 1%, Jeff. And so the question is, there's a health issue, there's a pollution issue. And when I think about if Rwanda has the courage, about 15 years ago, they put in their own kind of bans against single-use plastic in bags and bottles. If India is tackling this, if Mexico is trying to tackle it, though they're not performing as well as we are in terms of recycle, for a country like the United States, and for most of your listeners who can afford to make the right decision, both for the planet and for their family and for their health, I encourage them to shop at Grove and let us help you in that journey. We use a phrase, progress over perfection. I think that is catching on across a lot of different elements, but it's just like every day, let's just get a little bit better. Every day, let's figure out what we can afford. Maybe I move away from the single-use plastic and those Costco kind of bins of 48 plastic water bottles, and I really do lean into reusable water bottles. Or you can go more extreme and you can find dental floss that we sell without a plastic container, right?
Wow.
Like there's a wide range of type of behaviors, and we're trying to meet customers where they are. And there are just some no-brainer type of decisions like water bottles that I hope your listeners and customers across the country and the world decide to take.
So Jeff, you started, you had a number of roles, but a big chunk of your career, formative chunk of your career was at Amazon. And I'm not here to bash on Amazon because I spend tons of money there and I love it. Love you, Amazon. But it is very clear that Amazon is not super plenty of plastic there, all those paper boxes, it has a tremendous impact. And that's okay because, I don't know if it's okay, but it is what it is. And again, I'm not here to pick on Amazon, but when you do make a commitment like the one that you've made at Grove, what are the trade-offs that you need to make? What does that look like?
Great question. I think when you realize that you want to lead on a front like this, first you have to attract a team of people that are all unified, and aligned on this mission and are driven to it. So it impacts our talent pool. And not just the talent pool, but the way that we remain connected. Next, you just think about the product that one sells, all the way from the type of ingredients that are in something and or the packaging. And often we are choosing we're always choosing, whenever it's possible, a more sustainable option, but often it's a more expensive option. So now all of a sudden, you're a D2C company, you're a brand.
Direct to consumer for everybody who may have not heard that.
Okay, thank you.
Direct to consumer.
And there are many, quote, direct to consumer companies that are trying to go up against Amazon. It's hard to win. And especially if you have a higher cost structure. And so what we are leading with is making sure you ignore the greenwashing, all the other players, and we try to get our story in front of customers who are trying to make the right decision for their family. And so let me walk you through just what some of those products could look like and how it all comes about.
Yeah, and before you do, explain greenwashing too, because that may be a term that folks haven't come across.
Yeah, I think there's this term is used to kind of capture a set of actions where people overspeak and overhype their environmental impact. And so they may say things are carbon neutral and there's
FOMO Sapiens is carbon neutral, everybody, right?
Well done. I'm not
Thank
surprised.
you, but I didn't do anything. It's just that I am emitting carbon right now, but you get my point.
By the way,
I don't know. You know better than me.
Again, I'm not a scientist. I'm just like a builder and a problem solver.
There we go.
And but I will say I've learned enough about some of these issues that there are right and wrong decisions if you care about the health. If you're worried about the health and the impact of plastics in water and then also secondarily the environment. So we became famous a bit in this kind of home cleaning space. Just stop and think about home cleaning or even a more extreme laundry detergent. Do you buy one of those enormous orange Tide hard plastic containers that does 100 loads?
Sadly, I do. Yeah.
Many people do. Like, right? Like there's a reason they sell tens of millions of those a year. So the challenge though is you're literally taking hard plastic that likely won't be recycled, that is then shipped like a heavy amount of water that's mostly water shipped all around this country, creating even more carbon, when instead what you could do is actually sell little concentrates.
Yeah.
And so whether it's dish soap, whether it's hand soap, whether it's multi-surface cleaner, tub and tile, all of those, we came up with these little aluminum bins, like little containers, tins, like not bins, like little tins. And they were so concentrated, you pour them and mix them in with water, and then all of a sudden you have as efficacious of a hand soap as the top performing brands. And yet you're shipping a small amount of liquid, so there's a lower kind of impact to carbon.
Yep.
You are doing it in an aluminum recyclable tin, and you have an end product that is as effective as the other kind of leading brands. And you can go kind of, I encourage like listeners, go ahead and test this product. But we truly are a leader, our bar, a leader in efficacious, high performing products. And so they have to be planet first, but they also have to be high performing. So it's this 1-2 punch. So we became famous for selling these dispensers, like a hand soap dispenser that's beautiful, well-designed, glass bottle, and durable, that then you mix with this a little aluminum, this concentrate, mix it with water, shake it up, and now you've got great hand soap. Did the same for dish soap, did the same for dishwasher, all of dish, and even laundry. And with laundry, we've gone with sheets, and each one of these are new product innovations in the
Wait, the
market.
detergent's on a sheet?
It's not dryer sheets anymore, Patrick. It's
Whoa,
all
no, this is amazing. Like
you should not be buying large.
Are you coming from the future to tell me this? Because I didn't know this. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, I just, I've not been paying attention to innovations in these spaces. That's incredible. And it is like, it is to me just the idea, not only I believe you, it's a good product, but also that it takes less space in your home. And it is so clear the difference in what you're doing for the environment, because like you could even, by the way, you could take it in your carry-on. Can't do that with a normal, that's incredible. I don't know why you would, but you could do.
But like, look,
Wow.
I'm not from the future, but like if you fast forward what type of products are coming and the type of innovations we will deliver, you're going to have great high performing products that cost less, that are better for the environment. And that's where we're going. Now, along the way, sometimes we have to take on some higher costs. Like the reality is glass costs more than aluminum, aluminum costs more than plastic. Each one of these things costs a little bit more, but we're trying to meet that customer with where they are, helping them make the trade-offs for them, and then presenting them a set of products that they can pick from. Now, the way the math works, by the way, if you're curious about the business model, is if I'm selling an $8 item to a customer, it's hard to win. It's just hard to win. It's pretty expensive to ship that item from our warehouse, to an end consumers. And it's hard to beat Amazon because they have such scale. But if that customer has 7 or 8 items in their cart and we ship one box to them, we minimize carbon impact by having only one truck and one package going down that neighborhood. And we actually minimize the overall shipping costs because there's a benefit of scale. So that's how our math works. So we get these unbelievable products, persuade customers, don't just come and buy one item, buy a collection of items, have a monthly box or a box every 3 months show up to your house. We kind of built around a subscription model, and it enables us to get the type of economics that we need, and that ensures savings to the end consumer.
FOMO. This is very exciting. I mean, this is... my head is spinning a little bit because I do think this is pretty compelling. Now, Jeff, before we get to the lightning round, which it's one of my favorite parts of the show, I do want to ask you one last question, which is I have read doing my research, I have read that you're getting into the world of Targets and CVS's and Wegmans and stuff like that, into brick and mortar. Now, tell us about that. Are these your branded? Is it a branded product? Like, or what is? Yeah, give me the whole. Because like for people like me who are excited right now and want to go out and experience your stuff, like tell us what we're gonna find.
All right, I love it. So About half of our revenue comes from our own product, real innovation that we are developing. We're working with suppliers. We've got chemists. We're scientists. We're trying to figure out how do we get product to work as well, that in a more planet-friendly way with more sustainable type of packaging. We call that Grove Co. We just relaunched with this major new kind of umbrella brand, really proud of the branding and the look. And we launched on shelves this spring. Like we've been on shelves before at Target, Walmart, Kroger, CVS, Meijer, Wegmans. Like we have great distribution. Literally ended 2023 with over 7,500 doors, like products in 7,500 brick and mortar doors. So really strong presence. But what I'm really proud of is this year we launched with a new product. We call it Ready to Use. And so it'll be on dish soap and hand soap. And it is in an aluminum container, kind of like the first of its kind. Like if you think of some other, planet first type of companies that may be on those Target shelves, like we like what Method and Mrs. Myers do. We sell their product in our store as well. And you can find those in Target as well, but ours will be an aluminum bottle that's ready to use, and then you can buy our concentrate to refill it. Like the world is going to move towards refilling in the same way you were thinking about those plastic kind of bottles, water bottles you used to have. Like you fast forward a few years and people are going to have great, nice dispensers for dish soap or hand soap, that things that they'd be proud of even to put on their kitchen counter or in their bathroom. And then they're just going to buy refills that have less plastic, that are more recyclable, that will likely be a concentrate, and you mix them together and you are able to have a win-win.
Yeah, it sounds great. And in doing so, I mean, there is an ego expressive element to this. To when you have that in your home, you're letting people know, hey, like I actually care, and I've taken some small moves. Really interesting stuff. I mean, one idea for you, FOMO themed hand soap. Think about it. Think about it. Think about it. All right. So let's move on to our lightning round. I got 4 questions for you. Okay. 4 questions for you, Jeff. Lightning answers. You ready to go?
Yes,
you ready?
Of course.
Okay, good.
I'm ready.
Number 1. What is a favorite quote?
Be response-able.
Ooh, I never heard that before. And it's also a spelling lesson.
It's probably originally inspired by Viktor Frankl, but I took it from Stephen Covey.
Viktor Frankl.
Stephen Covey and Viktor Frankl are two of my giants who are like intellectual giants that are my heroes.
This show is a Viktor Frankl safe space for sure. All right. Number 2, one book or podcast that every FOMO Sapiens should know about.
I'm right now really into The Hidden Brain.
Hidden Brain.
It's around psychology and neuroscience. I listen to every single episode, part of it to match my daughter's curiosity. I have an 18-year-old daughter who is just so fascinated with how the brain works. She was reading Stephen Covey and Viktor Frankl when she was like 12 and 13, and I can barely keep up with her, and I just love it. It's just like an intellectual curiosity.
I love it. Okay, number 3. What's one piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
I think it's like just believe in yourself. I was debating between believe in yourself and lean into failures.
They're kind of the same thing, don't you think?
Yes,
a little bit.
No, like maybe a failure can rattle you, and you can lose confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
But I think once you become a parent, you start thinking, what do you wish for your kids?
Yeah.
And what you wish for them is for them to be their best authentic selves, like the best version of themselves. And then you think about what are the inputs to get there. And there's something around confidence. And all of us are shaken. All of us hit different failures. All of us are uncertain at different times. And it's like, how do you build a consistency of resilience to know I can get through this, I can get through this, I can get through this. Somehow we haven't even talked about September 2008.
Yeah.
Where I remember where you were, I remember where I was, and it was like, how are we going to get through this? And so there's something about believing in oneself, leaning into failure, failing fast. That's what I would try to tell my younger self.
I would say compartmentalize, because that's how I got through 2008 and the pandemic. You just don't talk about 2008 with me. It's very triggering. All right.
I know.
By the way, this is not my interview to tell you all my problems. But anyway, let's move on. Number 4, last one, but it's a doozy. What's your most important memory?
I think it's parenthood. It's like my first child. Like, look, I think for me, maybe I've somehow martyred my father in my own memory because he died young. But for me, this journey of parenthood is really important. I don't know if I've told you even about my brother, but through surrogacy, he became a single dad very late in life.
Wow.
Literally at the same age, my dad died.
Wow.
And so for my brothers and me, this parenthood thing was just important. And, you can think about memories of inflection points in life. And I think the biggest inflection point in my life when I look back when I'm 80 will be this journey that I'm on. It's just changed who I am.
All right. If you want to figure out which product you're going to buy over at Grove, you want to go to grove.co, check them out, or, your local retailer. If you want to find Grove on Instagram, you can find them at Grove Collaborative. Jeff Yurcisin, CEO of Grove, thank you so much for being here.
Amazing. Thank you, Patrick.
FOMO. If you like today's show, please be sure to rate it and recommend it to your friends. And as always, you can find me on Instagram at Patrick J. McGinnis, on Twitter at PJ McGinnis, and on the web at FOMOSapiens.com or PatrickMcGinnis.com, where you can get all kinds of free resources to live a more decisive and entrepreneurial life. FOMO Sapiens is recorded in New York City. Theme music is by Mike McGinnis, and editing and post-production is by Josh Elstro. If you like today's show, please be sure to rate it and recommend it to your friends. And as always, you can find me at FOMOSapiens.com and at PatrickMcGinnis.com. To advertise on FOMO Sapiens, reach out to contact@FOMOSapiens.com.